Why would Eddie Howe be willing to spend £55 million on Anthony Elanga? Lots of fans think that he's not worth that type of money. But the real question to ask is, what does Eddie Howe see that the rest of us don't? I've watched hours of Anthony Elanga's game, and I'll be breaking down the qualities that make Anthony Elanga far more valuable than you think, why he's the exact tactical profile that Eddie Howe has been searching for, and I'll answer the main question: is Anthony Elanga actually worth £55 million? So what makes Anthony Elanga so special? Newcastle have been searching for a right winger ever since the takeover. But not only has Anthony Elanga become the #1 target, Eddie Howe has noticed something others haven't. Anthony Elanga is on the cusp of being an elite player. Elanga got 6 goals and 11 assists in the Premier League last season. That's building on the 5 goals and 9 assists he got in the season before that, whilst in a relegation battle. And his 11 assists was the 3rd highest of any player in the Premier League last season. And when you add his goals to that, that's 17 goal contributions in the Premier League. And he ranked 17th of all players last season. Now that doesn't seem like a high ranking, but when you consider the age of the players in that top 17, only 2 players were the same age or younger than Elanga last season. That's Cole Palmer and Morgan Rogers. And he has 20 assists in the past 2 seasons. That's more than Cole Palmer, Bruno Fernandes, Lamine Yamal, Barcola, and Nico Williams. And the valuable thing about Elanga is he's just as comfortable on the left wing as he is on the right. And if you look at his assists last season, on that right hand side, he's driving 1v1 against Lewis Dunk, taking advantage of that space to carry the ball forward. That 1v1 ability, using that acceleration to get away from Lewis Dunk, work that little half yard of space, lovely cross into the box, squaring it in for Chris Wood to tap in into an open net. But he's just as impressive on the left hand side. In the national team, you can see he's got that ball down that left hand side in the left wing position, and he can link play with the players around him, little 1-2 with the striker here, then just makes a lovely run back inside into that central area, but the ball's played a little bit behind him. But this is where the technical ability of Elanga shines through. That ability to get that ball from behind him, drag it forward with his left foot onto his right hand side whilst keeping momentum with his running speed. And that's when that finishing ability from the edge of the box, beautiful curled, whipped, pacey ball low into that bottom right hand corner. And a lot of people are going to mention Anthony Elanga's pace, and it is impressive. He is so quick. But the most impressive thing is something no one is talking about, and that is his off the ball movement, and specifically his timing. And if you look at this game against Brentford, as Elliot Anderson picks up this ball, Elanga can make a run straight away. He could make a run to try and dart in behind the Brentford right back Coyote, but he doesn't. What he does is he peels to that left hand side as if he just wants this ball to feet. And as soon as he sees Elliot Anderson put that ball out of his feet and is ready to pass, he knows the triggers. And he makes that burst, that acceleration in behind Coyote, who thought that he would receive it to feet, but now he's never going to be able to catch up with the acceleration of Anthony Elanga. And that's what I mean about the cleverness of his movement, that timing that's going to be so impressive on the left wing or on the right wing. But it's not just positions that he's flexible in. Anthony Elanga is right-footed, but he's just as comfortable using that left foot. And the work that he put in with that weaker foot was seen last season, especially in his goal against Ipswich. Now you can see Anthony Elanga driving with the ball down the right-hand side, and most right-footed right wingers would try and gain that half yard of space, try and get that early cross in, but the benefit of being both-footed is that he can go either way. Dribbling with the ball with his left foot, then he just takes a little touch to cut in, doesn't even make that much of a touch on the ball, but it creates a little half yard, unsettles the defender that doesn't know if he's going on his right foot or his left foot, but it's the quality of finish with that left foot. Beautiful low bending shot into that bottom left hand corner, and it's just so impressive how he's able to use both feet just as well as each other. But there's something unexpected that I saw when analysing the footage of Anthony Elanga, and it's something that Eddie Howe and the scouting team must have loved. Everyone knows Anthony Elanga as the explosive winger, but there's something I saw against both Liverpool and Ipswich that highlighted a different aspect to his game. This is Anthony Elanga picking up the ball in a central area, having that freedom to move off that right wing and play closer to Chris Wood. And Hudson-Odoi plays this ball into Elanga. He takes a lovely first touch with his right foot to burst into the space, but it's that quality in that central area to find that final ball. That execution to play a low, flat ball across the ground, curved into Chris Wood's path, and he doesn't have to take a touch. A first time finish into that bottom right hand corner, and this is something I've been dying for from a right winger at Newcastle. Someone that can move in off that right hand side and create in those central areas. Not just a right footed right winger like Jacob Murphy, who has a role in this team, but someone that can move off that right wing, move off that left wing and link play. And Anthony Elanga showed this in the game against Liverpool. But it's not just that creative ability in the central area that's impressive. That explosive pace that we see in the right wing and left wing position to get in behind the opposition is just as threatening in the central area. And in his goal against Ipswich, you can see a long ball punted up to Chris Wood. Both players missed the ball, but you can see Elanga's positioning close to Chris Wood and his ability to run behind. Something that Chris Wood probably struggles a little bit on, was so impressive, so lethal for Nottingham Forest. But it's that first touch with his head to accelerate away from that Ipswich back line that's so impressive. It's not actually the touch, it's the decision making to not let it bounce, to take it as early as possible, that gives him the best opportunity to be 1v1 with the keeper. And when he's 1v1, in this situation, he's so cool, so composed, good technique on the finish, just threads it between the goalkeeper's legs, and it's the third goal that kills off this game. And it's that raw skill set that makes him such an exciting player. And if there's one coach that can push him to that elite level, it's Eddie Howe. So what makes Anthony Elanga the perfect fit for Eddie Howe's system? Now, if there's one situation that Anthony Elanga thrives in, it's transitions. That open space, that ability to use that explosive pace in behind, and he's joining the perfect team. Out of all teams in the Premier League, Newcastle were the second highest for direct attacks per 90. And it's that goal against Man United at home that typifies how dangerous he is in transitions. You can see him on the edge of the box here. He's on the wrong side of Dorgu, but as that ball's headed out by Yates, look how much ground he's got ahead of Dorgu. Anticipating where that ball might go, using that explosive pace to beat someone like Dorgu, who's no slouch. And look at that first touch. I love this first touch. It's that ability to kill the ball on the bounce at speed and move it forward that allows him to carry this ball. And as he's moving up the field, he then gets pressured by Garnacho, but he just shrugs him off. Using that strength, that ability to move the ball away from a player whilst using his arm to keep him away, and he just throws him to the floor. And yes, there's a mistake from Mazraoui, but you can see what Mazraoui's thinking. He's probably thinking, I'll rather you shoot from the edge of the box than you slip in this player, and he has a one-on-one versus the keeper. But again, lovely composed finish with his left foot. Remember to look at what foot he's using because he changes depending on the scenario. But that ability to use that left foot and just put it into that bottom right-hand corner was so impressive. And it's not just transition moments. Newcastle love to penetrate the opposition in the wide areas and put plenty of quality crosses into the box. And Anthony Elanga last season had the most assists from crosses in the Premier League. And this is against Burnley from a couple seasons ago, but it highlights just how good his decision making is, his 1v1 ability, and his crossing ability. You can see he drives at the left back, 1v1, and one of the impressive things is how he uses that dribbling ability. He drives inside with that left foot, little touches on the ball to throw the balance of the left back off, and then he uses that left foot to drive on the outside again. Working a little yard of space, that acceleration to get ahead of the defender, but it's that quality. That quality to get that ball in, low, flat, pacey. Just a first time finish is so easy for Chris Wood because he doesn't have to work that hard. And it's that crossing ability in wide areas that's so impressive from Anthony Elanga. And it's not just crosses from open play. He had 4 assists last season from set piece deliveries. And you can see in the corner against Brighton, a flat, pacey, beautiful delivery to that near post, and Gibbs White nods it in. And it's that ability to deliver from set pieces that we've missed a little bit when Kieran Trippier is out of the team. How does Elanga tactically fit into an Eddie Howe system? Now this is Eddie Howe's trademark 4-3-3. You can see Joelinton, Bruno and Tonali in behind that front three of Gordon, Isak and Elanga. Already you can see the pace is insane in that front line. But what I love to see is the patterns of play. Bruno always loves to get into this little position in the half space, Elanga being on that touchline, and then making them runs in behind the opposition, and Bruno threading the ball into Elanga. But what I would also love to see is a bit more fluidity in that front line. Something that creates a bit of havoc for the opposition, especially when we're playing against mid to low blocks. And what I would love to see is Isak pull into this wide left position. Remember how good he was, that assist against Everton at Goodison Park, that dribbling ability he has, and that ability for Gordon to play as a false nine, as he's done for England under 21s, and Elanga to move into that central position, like I showed you in his assist against Liverpool and the striker position he played against Ipswich. But that ability to have a bit more fluidity, Gordon moving to that right-hand side, Elanga down the left-hand side, and Isak up top, I think will be a massive weapon next season. But the main thing is something I said in my last video, is how do we get the best out of Tino Livramento? And I think I've said it before, but that ability to invert, overlap, and I think with Elanga being able to move inside now, Tino Livramento will be able to bomb around the outside and get in behind the opposition. And there's a lovely pattern of play between Elanga and Nico Williams that I would love to see replicated in the Newcastle colours, with Tino Livramento at right back. Nottingham Forest have the ball, Nico Williams inverts into that central position, and what that does is it clears a nice little easy ball into Elanga's feet. But it's what happens after that that's so impressive. That link-up play that Elanga has, he threads that ball into Nico Williams, who darts in behind that Tottenham back line, but he doesn't just watch and admire the pass. He's already on the move, catches Udogie unaware and makes a run in behind him into the space that Nico Williams had left behind. And it's so clever what Elanga does, because he knows, because Udogie is out of position, that Van der Ven has to come across from that central position in a quick amount of time, and Tottenham might not be able to reset that whole back line. And he makes a lovely run, not just into the central area, but in behind that Tottenham back line, threatening runs that cause chaos for the opposition. Nico Williams threads that ball in behind for Elanga's run, and it's a lovely cutback into Chris Wood's feet, and he finishes into the bottom left-hand corner. But this is what I mean. It's not just a right winger like Jacob Murphy who hugs the touchline, it's that link play, that ability to get the best out of that right-hand side with Tino Livramento. But just because a player has the skill set and fits the tactical profile of the team doesn't mean they're worth paying a huge transfer fee for. So we have to ask the question, is Anthony Elanga actually worth £55 million? Now let's imagine there's a player in Europe that Newcastle are chasing for the right wing position. Based on this set of circumstances, how much would you expect to pay? He's a player that just turned 23 years old, scored 6 goals and got 11 assists, the third highest of any player, 3 years left at the club that he's at, and the selling club have no reason to sell. The selling club have a sell-on clause that they also have to consider. A full international, a player that counts as a homegrown player for your club, a versatile player that can play on the right wing and the left wing just as good as each other, and play in behind a striker if you need him to. A player that can play with his right foot just as good as he can play with his left foot. Explosive pace and a high potential ceiling. And then add the fact that he's on the shortlist for Young Player of the Year in the league that season. How much would you pay for that? Now when you think of this figure, drop it in the comments below. I need to see how realistic these valuations are, and I want to see if you've added the Premier League tax. Someone that's proven to do it in the Premier League and could even push beyond what he's currently doing. And you have to add the fact that he's national teammates and friends with Alexander Isak. He could be key to influencing Alexander Isak to stay for an additional season. Now for the balance of the argument and to show I'm not biased, his goal output needs to improve. But if you see the finishes that I showed you earlier, he has that composed nature in front of goal, and if we put him in those positions enough times, he can get into the double digits in the near future. And you also have to consider he plays in a deep defensive block at Nottingham Forest. But he's the kind of player with that pace, that energy, that can adapt to a high-pressing team. And for the stage of development that Newcastle are at, we have to go for players that are approaching their peak. Not ones that are in their peak, because that would totally blow our transfer budget. And so when you consider his skill set, his development over the past 2 years, how he's tailor-made for an Eddie Howe system, and his potential ability in the future, I think Newcastle have paid the fair price for Anthony Elanga. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next episode of A Game of Two Halves.